Go ahead, punk. Make me play.
This is Bumping Into That Sound.
Welcome to Bumping Into That Sound, the rock-centric music and tone podcast where we dive deep into the riffs, rhythms and stories behind your favourite artists, tracks and instruments. My name is Francis and I'm your host. Whether you're a classic rock enthusiast or just discovering the magic of it for the first time, we've got you covered. Each episode, we explore the story behind the sounds, the people and the equipment. For those that don't know, Bumping Into That Sound is part of the Bumping Into family of podcasts. The idea behind Bumping Into is long-form conversations across a wide range of topics. If you're into more than just music, head over to bumpinginto.com.au or search Bumping Into on your podcast player. And for those just chasing music and tone, you're on the right channel here at Bumping Into That Sound. There's also a website for each of those show names. Just remember to add the .com.au on the end. Speaking of the website, if you're wanting to find out more about anything you may have heard on this episode, head to the website or check the show notes. There's most often links relating to the guest. Today I'm talking to Australian-born singer, songwriter and producer Rick Price. Rick burst onto the Australian music scene in the 1990s with his breakthrough debut album Heaven Knows. The album reached the ARIA top 3 and gave us singles like Not a Day Goes By and Heaven Knows, all reaching the top 10. However, Rick's songwriting influences go far beyond the pop music world, with deep ties to soulful rhythm and blues and country-style writing. In this episode, we talk about his origin from the small country town he grew up in, then being thrust into the world of fame, and now living in Nashville, where he owns a studio, record label, and produces new artists. Let's jump into the world of Rick Price. You know, one of the things I wanted to quiz you on is that journey from obviously Beaudesert, and we'll include the Gold Coast, but then to abroad. But I know you probably get sick of being asked the same questions about your origins over and over again, as I'm sure most people do. But there's a couple of little bits and pieces that really intrigue me that I wanted to narrow in on, I suppose, your thoughts at the time when certain events happened.
Yes.
So if you're up for that ride, that's where I'd love to go.
Sure.
So the first thing is you're obviously a Beaudesert boy, which back then would have been very much a country town. Now it's only an hour down the road from the Gold Coast. It's nothing to live there and travel here for work. But back when you were growing up, that really would have been country town.
Beaudesert?
Yeah.
Most definitely. Yeah, there was a skinny, when you drive from Beaudesert to Brisbane, you'll notice to the right side, or depending which direction you're going, a skinny little, bit of road. That was the highway. When we were kids, we sort of really didn't venture to Brisbane all that much, but it was very much a country town, which was beautiful. It was lovely to grow up in. Very simple life, It was the picture theatre Friday night, or the pubs, or the dance halls, but it was great. I loved it.
And your musical exposure is quite broad. I know that the most Aussies have this pop connection to you because you burst on the scene as the young pop star with a great voice and catchy songs. But when you go past the surface, there's a lot to you. There's a lot of layers. And for a guy out at Beaudesert in the 70s and the 80s, who would have been easily fed a diet of Cold Chisel, Jimmy Barnes, there was a lot more that you were exposed to. How did you get that exposure out there? How was that other music coming into your world?
Really through, records, of course. My mother she loved the crooners, so she loved, all the great sort of, singers from the 50s, whatever. She was a big Elvis fan. She loved Al Martino, or people like that. Of course, Frank Sinatra and all the usuals. But coming from a musical family, I had uncles and aunties that were already musicians by the time I hit the planet. and
Right.
they were already playing at all the barn dances. So I sat around from when I was a very little kid, very, very little, a couple of years old, hearing sing-alongs and stuff like that. So that's how I got exposed to music. But the radio, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, if you got a radio, you can hear, what's going on.
Yeah.
And that was my life, just, tuning into the radio. But then, of course, by that time we had Saturday morning shows. I don't remember what they were called. It wasn't Video Hits, or something else, Uptight or something, I think it was called when we were kids, and Countdown or things like that.
Yep.
So that's how I heard sort of the local music. And then every once in a while, music would creep in from overseas. But for whatever reason, my uncles and aunties were already tuned into Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, you know, there was
Oh,
and I was a huge fan of the Jackson Five when I was a kid, Michael Jackson, because he was really only a couple of years older than me, you know.
geez.
But yeah, that's how uh, all my uncles and aunties introduced me to the music they were listening to.
So if we fast forward, then you burst on the scene, and to anyone that's just watching, all of a sudden a hit
Mm,
maker turns up, and you're a
yeah,
star. That point of there would have been, I'm guessing, a lot of hard work and a lot of layers in between the point to where all of a sudden you're on radio every day and you're on video hits and all the rest
yeah.
of it. But do you
Mm.
remember that moment that it was like, I've made it. It's done. We've gone from being in the shadows to now we're on prime time TV, and it felt like the flick of a switch.
Yes, I do remember that time exactly. I was living in Camaray on the North Shore of Sydney,
Okay.
in a very old house that we were all, I was sharing with other musicians and my son. Um, I was very young at the time. And I remember driving down King's Cross, from King's Cross down William Street into the city. And as I was coming down, boom, I was in the car by myself and my song came on the
Oh,
radio.
wow.
And that was, like that was really the pivotal point for me. I'd heard my voice on the radio a lot because I'd I'd had 10 years really of singing on people's records as a background singer and all that, but I also used to sing radio and television commercials. So I was
Oh,
used to
right.
hearing my voice. No one knew who I was, but I would sing Coke, McDonald's, P&O, whatever, whatever, whatever. And but when you hear your song on the radio, your own song on the radio for the first time, that's a big deal. That's a
Yeah.
huge deal. If something happens in your psyche, because for me, it tapped into all of the years of music, all of the years of sort of longing for that point,
Yeah.
wondering whether I would ever get to that stage. And there's a certain part of you that goes, great, I can retire now. I've done it, my
Yeah.
song, But of course, you wake up the next day and you think, will they play it again?
Yeah.
It goes on high rotation. And then I started to see myself on the video shows, every Saturday morning and things like
Yeah.
that. And then I'm on the Tonight Show, I'm on the whatever they were, midday Tonight shows in Australia at the time.
Hey, hey, it's
And
Saturday, no doubt you would have been on.
oh yeah, hey, it's that I knew all those guys, Daryl and all those guys very well. In fact, I'd been on that show even prior to um, having records out because the industry sort of knew about me. I used to sing at industry events and award
Right.
shows and things like that. Like, so people knew, like, oh yeah, there's that guy that sings. I even did like the TV Logies awards and all kinds of different
Oh,
things
okay. So
because
you're
I'd already,
always involved.
I was sort of established as a singer, but I just didn't have any records out. But still, it's not the same as when your record comes out and you're on the television or the radio
Yeah.
based on your own music. It's a different world. It's very exciting. Yeah,
Was
it's
there
great.
the follow-up, like, because you're right, I was going to quiz you on that moment where, sometimes when you're constantly battling and you make it, you get oh, now I don't know what to do because you got so used to building momentum that once it comes, you don't know where to run with it. Was there that pressure? Because the first album you hit the ground with, that it was a runaway success.
Yeah.
The record
Mm.
labels and all the rest of it, which, obviously aren't known as being the most friendly and holistic people to deal with. Was there
Yeah.
that instant pressure? Well, what's next? That's great, but what's next?
100%. There's always pressure. When you get to is the stage of success, it's like, well, then, okay, what do I do next? How do I maintain that? What's my next move to keep this momentum going? Do I want to keep the momentum going? Do I want to take a different path? I was fortunate. I had a good relationship with my record company. I had a great manager, Ralph Carr. And, I just had a really good team of people around me, and they were very good to me in that with the second album, I made an album that they really didn't want me to make with the
Oh,
Tambourine
wow.
Mountain album because it was too sort of, it was too roots based. I went
Yeah.
back to kind of my roots of country rhythm and blues, which is really kind of where I live. I'm
Right.
not a country singer, but you can hear that sort of country folk
The
rhythm and blues
storytelling.
influence. Yeah, in
Yes.
all of my songs, it's there, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and I went back, I loved having a sort of a mainstream pop record, and I still love writing music like that today. In fact, now I've sort of come back to writing more of that. But
Oh, wow.
for the second album, yeah, I wanted to connect with the audience because I grew up, uh, my mentors were James Taylor, um, Jackson Brown, Neil Young, Crosby, Stills and Nash. I loved all those sort of singer-songwriter guys.
Yeah.
And that's really how I identified. But I had this rhythm and blues side as well. So I love Stevie Wonder. I love Sam Cooke. So much music that I was influenced by. So I just decided to record what I wrote. And I was writing very personal kind of stories about my family, about spiritual things, that mattered to me at the time. And that was the record I made. And God bless them, they let me make it, which doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
Usually a record company will step in and say, no, 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 it's got to be this, it's got to be that. You know, they
Yeah,
were,
definitely.
they were very, I felt respected at the label, especially, with Dennis and the boys at Sony. They fully supported me in the second record, even though, like I say,
It
that
wasn't
was
what
not
they
really
wanted.
what they wanted. No.
When because you touched on a lot of the stories were personal based, about you and your
Yeah,
family. When you obviously coming from someone that's not just doing a pop song where it could be plucked out of the sky to sound and feel appealing, you've now gone within. Does it ever
yeah.
become a worry that you're revealing so much of the inner self to the world? Do you ever sit back and go, oh, geez, I don't know if I should reveal that weakness or I should have said or implied? Does that ever come into the mind once it gets released?
It did it does once in a while, and it did when I wrote Heaven Knows, the title track of the first album. I wrote it with my friend Heather Field. But I remember when it first came to me, I just sat at the piano and played it like a song I'd heard before. It was very weird. But that's when I realized that how songwriting really works. We're channeling. We're not really writing songs. We are, and we're attaching. We're using our craft of songwriting. But that song came down. I was going through a breakup, and I just wrote it, and it was true to life. That song.
Wow.
And later I thought, oh, it didn't worry me at first, but when it became such a big hit, I thought, gee, I'm the guy that's known for sort of having his heart broken, um, kind of thing. Every once in a while, it would drift across the screen that thought, oh, you're going to need a rock and roll record to sort of balance things out. But no, not really. It's never been a big concern for me. In fact, the more personal music is for me and the songs I write and put out, the better. And I'm not
Mm.
really, you know, I don't like telltale songs. I don't like songs where you talk about other people and their shortcomings and all of that. That's
Yeah.
not my thing. I think if you can't say something good, just shut up and say
You don't say
nothing.
anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what's the point? If
Yeah.
you need therapy, go to a therapist, but don't. Yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
I'll get my soapbox about that. But yeah, no, I enjoy vulnerability. There's real power in vulnerability. There's real
Yeah.
power
Okay.
in that. And once you can embrace it, then you're no longer sort of as fearful of what people think or whatever. We all worry about what people think. I don't think there's anyone alive that doesn't worry at all or is
Yeah.
not concerned. But no, I've always been uh, a highly emotional person, and I write that way. I like to write that way. Yeah.
Wow. You, so you had those two albums that I suppose that were the defining Australian era albums, I guess you could say. Then it got
Mm.
to a point that you packed up and left. So that moment, was it a case of I've heard so many people say, Billy Thorpe said it, Michael Chugg would often say it, that you get to a point where you just have to. You just have to pack up and go overseas. You can only
Oh
get so
yes.
big in Australia, where it's the next step of your growth, of whatever it be, it has to be abroad. Is that what you felt? That was the reason you were like, well, let's go now to Nashville, or move abroad and do something else?
Yes and no. It really happened very organically. I wasn't doing much. I was writing, it wasn't like I was at the top of the charts in Australia or anything. I was pretty much under the radar, when I
Oh,
left Australia to go and live to go and live in the United States. But my friend Tommy Emmanuel, who I toured a lot with, wonderful guitar player and musician, we'd known each other for many years, played on each other's records and done a lot of work and toured together and stuff. He was living in Nashville in America, and he just rang me and said, I really think you should come to America and come on tour with me for a year and let's go to Europe together and all that. And I said, well, that sounds good. I wasn't doing anything special. And so I packed up my house. My kid was grown up and, had he had started his own family. So, there was sort of room to do it. And I just packed up and thought I'll take a little short excursion, see what happens. But I'd been to America many times. I'd recorded my first album in Los Angeles. I had made many trips to America to write
right.
and record with people because I really grew up listening to American music, American roots music, soul music, and so it felt right to me to sort of come here and be amongst what I felt like I grew up with. But the trip was very organic. I just got on a plane, came over and toured with Tommy for about a year. We just went all over the States and Europe, and it was amazing. And long story short, I just thought, well, I'm here. I'll stay another, couple of years with my visa, and then I got a green card, and then I got citizenship, and
Wow.
that's just how it works. But see, it's funny. People say, oh, you live all the way in America. I don't think of it like that. When you go back and forth as much as I do, it's like living in Tasmania, right? It's just more ocean, that's all.
So you
It's
sort of bounce
it's a
between the two. Both are home.
very easily. Yeah, very easily. And I love it. I love living in America. Of course, I love being Australian. Everyone says to me, gee, you haven't lost your accent. I go, "No, well, why would I? Why would I want to lose my accent?"
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah. No, but it wasn't anything special. It was very organic, the move to America. And it just made sense for me to sort of stay.
Is the because you're in a position now where you're in a position to, one, make your own music that you want to make, and two, that
Mm.
you've been through the growth of, I suppose, lack of a better term, the glory days of Australian music, where we took a bit of pride in our own, and there was a lot of ways for artists to be exposed to the world, or at least the country. When you were kicking off, we had Hey Hey It's Saturday, we had tonight shows, we had midday shows. Radio was
Yeah,
king. Everyone knew the morning crew, the afternoon guys. It was important and it mattered. And the family jumped in the car and all listened to, if it was Triple M or whatever station, Fox or whatever, B105, everyone listened. We were much more connected. Now I know people
yeah.
say, oh, we've got social media and that provides a world of opportunity, but it's radically diluted. Do you think that it's easier now for someone if the young version of you turns up now, the 18, 19-year-old, or do you think it was better back then trying to
It
break
was
into the market?
much easier back then. There's 60 to 100,000 songs added to Spotify every day. I don't know the exact number, but
That's madness. Yeah.
I mean, it's mental, isn't it, when you think
Yeah.
about that? Your neighbor's putting a song on Spotify as we speak, recorded on his laptop in his garage. So the music's changed. You can't stop change, and change is good. We don't want to just stay the same. Um, everything must change, as they say. But yes, it was much easier. I went to my record company, Sony Music. Boom, they opened the floodgates. I was on every radio station on the hour, every hour, across the whole country. I'm on all the TV shows every Saturday morning. There's my video. Um, I'm just popping up everywhere. It's a massive sort of push. And only a select amount of people, because of being signed to a major label and having, a management team and all of that, were visible. And so uh, that was a huge advantage in many ways because all of a sudden, bang, you're just on the mainstream channel. It's like you're on channel 7 every
Yeah.
day, every hour, every day.
And
It's not
everyone's
like that
watching.
anymore.
That's the thing. It's not
Everyone's
all,
watching
yeah,
because everyone watches the video shows, everyone watches the Tonight shows, everyone watches the midday show,
yep,
everyone's listening to the radio because that's how we heard music. There was no internet or Spotify or anything like that. You had to either go to the record store and buy the album or listen to the radio or
yeah,
watch the TV. So yeah, it was much, much easier. I think it's daunting for young artists to be starting off today, but it's genius how they're operating. And I'm watching that happen because I've just signed an artist to my label.
oh,
You
right.
know, I've got a little record label and I've just signed an artist and I can see how she's operating in her world. She's 21, you know, and she's TikToking and all that kind of stuff. So there's, there are some advantages for young people coming up now, and that they are very visible, but there's just a ton of traffic. I mean,
Yeah,
everyone, you turn on Instagram and there's somebody great who
yeah.
you've never heard of singing and playing a song. You go, they're amazing. How come I've never heard of them? Well, that's because they're now in a sea of, 60,000 to 100,000 people
Per day.
a day adding
Yeah,
their songs.
yeah,
So it's a different world, yeah.
yeah. No, it definitely
I think it
is.
was easier back for me, for sure. Much
I,
easier.
I think too, it's a shame that we've lost a lot of that personalized. I mean, you look at 1960s Australia, even,
Mm.
we had our own TV shows with a very small population. And,
Yeah,
even if you want to talk about, we were made three local car manufacturers were here with a very small population, and we had our own TV shows. We had everything in house, and then it became unfeasible to do this because it wasn't economical. And it's like, but the population grew. Obviously, the
yeah,
costs went with it. But then now we say, well, we can't do this, we can't do that. So we just must consume what is being offered globally. I think you lose a
yes.
sense of self when that happens.
A different world now. It's a different
Yeah.
world. Everything is available through the phone right there. The whole world is a touch of a button away. So it's very different. Yeah, we have access to absolutely anything we want instantly. Um, and so it's changing the culture
Yep.
and it's changing how we operate as human beings. So yeah, it's very
Mm.
different. It'll never be like that again. Like I don't think there'll ever be 50s Hollywood movie stars. It's
Yeah.
just never going to happen again. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
different now.
Yeah.
Um, that era has passed. But I think, all we can do is to embrace what's available to us and sort of operate in the system that we're in. If we don't, we're sort of rigidly sitting in our seat on the bus and saying, no, I'm not getting off. I'm staying
Yeah,
here.
that's a good point.
So
Yeah, that's a very good
you
point.
can't
Yeah.
do that.
Yep. You've got to
Sooner or later,
adapt.
you're going to have to get off the bus and
Yep.
join life.
Yep. That's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah, that's very true. And you mentioned now you've got a label and you've signed people. So is that where most of your time is spent now, is producing in a studio with other artists?
A lot of time, yeah. I, well, especially this last year, I've been doing a lot of that. And it's something I've done. It's happened organically. A few artists, friends approached me 20 years ago and said, "Oh, you made that record or by yourself for yourself. Can you make one like that for me? And I go, well,
Oh,
okay, I'll
right.
try. And that's sort of how it happened. I never really planned it. And and when I left Sony, I started my label then, Clarice Records, 20 years ago. But I've been the only artist on it. And this year, I've signed my first artist. Um, so yeah, I sort of follow my nose. I don't really plan things. I'll always write and record my own music, and it's all my own music really in a way. When I'm writing for anyone else or writing for me, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. But I'll continue to make albums and tour for as long as I feel inspired to do that, and I want to do that, and there's an audience to hear it. But if I don't do that, I'll write for others more and produce others.
Hmm.
I love just making music. I've never been, I enjoy the spotlight. I don't shy away from it. I'm not uncomfortable with it. I just, music's a very internal thing for me. And I love being in the studio and writing songs. I love making music. I love making a song and producing it. And there it is. That's something that's made from nothing, just an
Yeah.
idea. And
Yeah.
this sort of channel of creativity that I tap into, um, turns out that there's sort of I guess in my own way I've sort of developed my own method that I sometimes teach to other people as well. I share it with other people and work with other artists, and it's good. Connection and communication are super important because if you can write songs and make music. It's a beautiful thing, and you do it for yourself. I think you know it's very true. One has to please oneself first,
Yeah.
but then it's a connection with an audience. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing to make something and share it with somebody. It's human nature. That's
Yeah.
how we're built, I think.
Well, then it must be very special to know that certain songs just resonate. People just grab them and it can mean the world to them. It can be a savior, it can be an uplift, it can be so much to them
Oh,
for years.
absolutely. It can define things for them. And you realize that your songs are bigger than you.
Yeah.
The music um, is bigger than me because as a singer and a songwriter, as a human being, I'm tapping into the worldwide library of music, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm writing it, but really what I'm doing is I'm hearing it and interpreting it. I'm hearing it and interpreting it. And as I stay open to that channel, then songs just flood in. There's a little song I did everywhere in the air, singing to me now. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Songs are everywhere. They're
Yeah.
everywhere all the time. And you can just tap into them and write them. And that sort of creative channel is spontaneous and it's always open and to anyone that wants it. And then we just interpret that. Then we bring our own sort of, I suppose, I bring my songwriting craft, whatever that might be, to those ideas. And I don't pretend to understand it all, but I understand just enough to participate, you know,
Which is
and
perfect because
enjoy
that
it.
keeps the magic alive.
Keeps the magic alive. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. We have to, keep the magic alive. If you try to overthink it, like what I did just then when I just made up a little song, I'm not thinking that up. That's just coming through, right? I
Yeah.
can't think it up as fast as I just did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like showing that to people to say, you see, that's not me thinking, that's me just tapping in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So thinking is the enemy in a way of creativity. You can't overthink it too much. So I don't want to try to understand it, but
Yeah.
that's why I think whether I'm making music on the stage with a lot of people, with a huge audience or a small audience, or in my studio, I love the experience.
Yeah. And I think that's great that it's still it's still such a big thing for you too. You see so many artists get to a point and they stop. And then especially for fans, you're always craving more. You want more because you
Yeah.
relate to it. So I think that's such a beautiful thing that you've just you know, you're still at this peak. It's still all inspiration and channeling and providing. I think that's such a great thing to offer to people that it means something to. So that's fantastic that it still feels so fresh for you.
Yeah, it's always fresh. I can sing any of my songs 1,000 more times and they'll still feel fresh if I allow them to be in a field of, this is going to sound very dramatic, in a field of freshness, you see?
Yep.
If I'm in a field of like, oh, I'm going to sing this bloody song again,
Yeah.
that, I'm in charge of, well, how am I going to be when I hit the stage? How am I going to connect with the audience? What's my intention? You know,
Yeah.
and am I present and awake and there for the experience? And if I'm that, then I'm in the moment of the song, and for all intents and purposes, it's like the first time I'm singing that song in a way,
Yeah.
even though there's a lot of memory of it and whatever. But if I don't attach any story to it, shall we say,
Yep.
right? Any additional story to what I'm doing, I'm just, what's gotten into me, never used to feel this way. I can be very in the moment of that song and it's different, almost different every time, you know?
Yeah. Which is the
Mm,
magic of life, which is why people hop in their cars, pay for a ticket, line up, pay a lot to get a drink, sit next to someone they don't want to sit next to
that's right.
because they want to hear and feel what they can't when they put a CD on.
Exactly. That's so beautifully put, Francis. That's exactly why we need to keep like music alive. And that's why people do it.
Yeah.
Because we know that each moment is a new moment. Each, to be in the present moment of a performance, of an exchange with an artist, because definitely an exchange with the audience, um, it's a very unique and special thing. And you can't really get that from your couch. Even if you've
Yep.
got the most sophisticated sound system, that's a beautiful experience too. But
Yep.
it's not the same as going and seeing somebody live.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yep. And the
Yeah,
nuances that change. And even if it's a
yeah,
mistake or if it's
yeah.
something, it's just
I
adds.
make plenty of those. Yeah,
But yeah, there's magic in this that that arena when you're doing that.
100%. It's absolutely magic. It's mystical. It's the, like you said, it's the essence of what it is to be a human being on planet Earth
Yeah.
and to be in this new moment, like this moment that we're in together now. So, there's an aliveness, there's a vitality to life if you're living in the presence of it.
Yeah.
But if you're stuck in the story of it, you know what I'm saying? If you're
Yeah,
stuck in
100%.
like a tape loop,
Yep, that's
or
right.
pink
Yeah.
references, all that sort of stuff. And so creativity in music's like that. And once I sort of discovered that, I realized there really is no limit to how I can participate in music if I want to.
Yeah.
I may not always want to. I might close up shop and go fishing. Who knows? We might all, go and do something else at the drop of a hat. But
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing.
It
It's
is,
a,
yeah.
it's quite a remarkable thing to be a human on planet Earth, is it not?
It,
You
it,
know?
it is, yeah, especially when you decide to make the most of it and use it for good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
use it for good. Deepak Chopra, I'm not a devotee necessarily of him, but he has that beautiful thing where he says, what's my purpose? Is to be an agent of conscious, a conscious agent for the highest good. I think,
Yeah.
well, isn't that beautiful? What a simple
Yeah.
way to live, just to serve each moment
Yeah.
the best you can. Because I don't know about you, but I'll be swimming I swim in the morning. I'll be doing my laps or whatever, and I'm forecasting way into the future, and I go, whoa, hang on a
Yeah,
minute,
yeah, yeah.
you
10
know?
steps ahead. You wake up and I do that. You wake up and you're like, okay, today is X, Y, and Z.
That's
Bang, bang, bang. And then you start planning, okay, scenarios. Well, if this doesn't happen, then I need to shift gear to this. And it's
yeah,
exhausting you've got to really be aware of it and pull it back. I suppose you'll never end it, but if you're aware of it, you can manage it.
100%,
Yeah. No, look, that's
100%.
and you're coming back. So later the tail end of this year, you're coming back to Australia for a run around the country.
I am. I can't wait. My first show is the 30th of October, I think, in Twin Towns on the Gold Coast there.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
first
very
show.
close.
And I'm playing a ton of shows right through till the early part of December. So we're going all over the country and playing in lots of interesting and small places. And it's really going to be fantastic.
Yeah,
So I love
that's.
coming back to Australia every year. It's great.
I did see there was a lot of dates, so there's a lot of opportunity for people, no matter where they
Yes.
are, to jump on
Almost
and go
every
and see a
major
gig.
city, I think, most major cities we're playing, and so there'll be a show near you, and people
Yeah,
can get all their tickets from my website, rickprice.com, or directly from the venues, but it's all there,
yeah.
on my social pages and the website.
Well, thank you, Rick. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you jumping on and sharing your insights and your story.
Yes, mate. Well, what a great pleasure it's been to chat with you.
Thank you very much for checking out the show. If you did like it and have the opportunity, please do leave a 5-star review on your podcast player. It does help others find the show. If you want to find out more information about this episode, the guest, or even the other episodes that are on offer, head over to bumpingintothatsound.com.au. Find the episode page, and I always do my best to list follow-up links and details that make it easy for you to find out more. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'm looking forward to bumping into you next time.